Hey, there we are.
What's up, everyone? I got Corbin Roush here, and pretty excited to have him out at my house. And we're in my studio in Bend, Oregon, and we thought it was a perfect opportunity to be able to have a conversation with you guys. So we're gonna wait a few minutes and see everyone that's getting on here first, and then we shall begin.
Yeah, we're excited to do this. Flew out and met with Rick and be able to have a chance to sit in the Genius's laboratory, as I call this room.
I tell myself that every day.
And just to see his activity and the things that he does is just spectacular. And this is a lot about the business. So before we get started, make sure you're just hitting share. Get your teams on here. Get your people on here. This is a huge opportunity for me to be able to be at Rick's house and interview him and talk with him and just share from the mind of a genius what's going on. And then he's going to pick my brain a little bit. Then we got both videos going at the same time. So.
It's going to be fun. So we'll just give you a couple more minutes. But, Corbin and I, this morning, we got up and started reading, right?
Yeah.
Reading about Elon Musk, and that was
I finished a book today. He handed me a book on Elon Musk, and I said, man, I'm not a big reader. I like to read a little bit. I don't have like an attention span where I can really just sit down and read. And 2 hours later, I was done with the book and said, wow, what an inspiration. Be in the mind of a genius, Elon Musk, and the things that he does. Great read.
Umbrellaing, and to umbrella that, we're going to be talking about the 1% and how to become the 1% in anything. Of course, for us, it's here in Viseo in the network marketing space, but, reading about Elon Musk and seeing everything that guy has done is so fascinating. I mean, he went from, starting his first company, selling it for $22 million. 22 million, and then he gets involved in PayPal as a large percent shareholder, and then eBay purchases PayPal, and he walks away with 165 million, and then he starts SpaceX and throws 100 million at that right out of the gate. At the same time, he throws 70 million at Tesla, building two massive companies. And both of those companies doing something that nobody's really ever been able to do successfully, with the Tesla cars running off of battery operation, and then going to the stars, going to Mars. Two massive companies. When we talk about the 1%, or for in his case, probably like the 0.0000,
he's the 1% of the 1% of the 1%.
But it stretches us, right? We read about people like that, and it stretches us, and we thought, it would be a great opportunity for us to talk about the 1% and how we can all aim higher, and what we do that gives us the winning edge in this industry. And I don't think there's anyone that does it better than Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And there's so many other greats, right? We have Richard Branson, we have Warren Buffett, and the Bill Gates of the world, but that was a great foundation to see what he.
Well, one thing that stuck out to me in the book is it's something very similar to Viseo and what Dallin Larson is doing and what we're all doing as a group. He found a need in the marketplace, and he ran with it, and he put in more work and more effort than anybody else out there in a market that the big motor companies said was a failure and would never work, the electric car. And at one point, he took that company to be actually more net worth than GM.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And so you think of, let's equate that with Viseo. Where are we at? We identified a need of the poor supplementation that's out there. And Dallin has brought us a vehicle that's been around for a while, but nobody thought to take that liposome and put nutrition in it and see where it could go. So we are just primed and positioned as a company to be able to go out and do something extraordinary. That the 1% of networking as far as a company, to be able to have the brand and the products that we have.
Yeah.
So we've got to get started.
So, in talking about the 1%, I read some things that I thought were really significant. I know we have a lot of people that are some note takers out there, and this was the 1% in terms of what they make, right? So, based on your age, where you should be, if you want to be in the 1% to 0.1%. So you have the low side, which is the 1%, and then you have the high side, which is the 0.1%. So at between age 27 and 31, to be in the 1% bracket, you need to be making $170,000 a year. To be in the 0.1% is $300,000. So you need to be in the range between $170,000 and $300,000 if you're at the age of 27 to 31. From 32 to 36, the 1% is $210,000 a year. The 0.1%.
Hold on.
What's that?
Technical difficulties. It's beeping at us. We've exceeded the weight limit.
No. So from 32 to 36, 1% is $210,000. The 0.1% is $570,000. At the age of 37 to 41, 1% is $260,000. To the high side, 0.1% is $820,000. Right. So if you're 42 to 46, then it's $320,000 a year, of course. At 1%, the 0.1% is $1.1 million a year. And then from 47 years old to 51 years old, 1% is $360,000. The 0.1% is $1.5 million. And then this was interesting. From ages 52 to 58, the 1% was actually $10,000 lower per year at $350,000. And then 0.1% was $1.4 million. And the reason being is that from the ages of 52 to 58, many want to spend more time having freedom rather than working for money. And
they've accumulated their wealth.
Yeah. And I think we can really talk a lot about that with what we do. These people aren't really getting a chance to really enjoy their life until 52 to 58.
Here's something that's interesting to me. People ask me all the time, what is the ideal age for network marketing? And I believe, honestly, it's anybody that has a dream, anybody that wants something and will enough to go out there and go to work for it. But if I had to put an age on it, it's 35 to 55. And if you look at these numbers, those are where all the accumulation of the 1% is. Yeah. And it gets bigger. And what that says to me, the bigger, the older you get, is it's because you're acquiring wisdom. You've had failures. You are starting to understand your role and where you're at and the lane that you need to be in to make that happen. But when you're first getting started, people, the kids right out of college and stuff, why can't they just come out and just tear this thing up? Well, they don't have a lot of successes in life yet. Yeah. And the older you get, the more successes you have and the more influence you have. And so these numbers were glaring to that effect.
So before we move on, the average, and it varies from state to state. We were going through each state. So like you could be in the 1% in Alabama at like $225,000 a year, right, up to like $900,000 a year, and you're in the 0.1%. So from each state, that average varies, but across the country, it was 1.39% to be in the 0.1%, right, and as low as 300,000. So I thought that was.
I thought it was interesting. Alaska had one of the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alaska's the lowest, to be in the 1%, it was $400,000 a year, and then to be in the average, it was like $1.4 million a year.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And then what was the one that we said 2.2? Was that Massachusetts?
That was Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut, to be in the 0.1%, it was
2.4 million.
Yeah, 2.4 million a year. So that sets us up for where the mark is, but we want to talk about, like, what does it take
How do you get there?
How do you get there? Yeah, how do you become the 1%? What do you think are some of the characteristics of the 1%?
Well, I can only attribute it to my life and my life experiences. And I was sharing with Rick earlier, when I got out of college and I took my first job, I went to this company that was a relatively smaller sized company. It was corporate America. And the owner of the company told me, I believe in 10 years, and I'm 22, 23 years old, and he says, I believe in 10 years you can make $100,000 a year. And it said 22, 23-year-old, that was phenomenal. That was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. This is going to be so great. By the time I'm 33 years old, I'll be making $100,000 a year. And what I found is, and I hate to say this, but people are inherently lazy. They're going to do a lot of times, especially in corporate America, where you don't have that dream and you don't have that ability to own your own company and have that true, income that we also want. Is I found that they do just enough to get by, just enough to make the boss not mad at them, but they hit their quotas or hit their sales figures. But I decided I wanted this something so badly. This was my vehicle, if you will, to become wealthy. I didn't have that entrepreneur spirit where I was going to be the guy that went and started my own company. I learned early on, I remember my first day of the job, I said, man, I don't have rich parents. I don't have this master idea that's going to get me rich. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outwork everyone, out-hustle everybody, and build it through hustle, if you will. And so when I took this job and started to work, I started doing things that nobody else would do. And I can equate it to network marketing, because so many people get in and do just enough where they think, okay, I've done it today. Why isn't my business growing? It's because they're not even doing just enough. They're doing the bare minimum. So what I did in that job was, most people would just call on the buyer. Who is in charge of issuing the purchase order for that product? What I did is I met with him. I'd meet with his boss. I'd meet with the analyst. I'd go meet with the engineer that's in charge of the product. I'd go meet with the engineering manager that's assigning the products. I'd meet with the draftsman. I'd meet with quality control and quality assurance. Then, when the projects became time to hand out to the people, they would give them to me and my company, and my growth was through the roof. And in 10 years' time, instead of making the $100,000 that he was telling me, I was making $500,000. The whole company at the end of my career, when I walked away from it, all the salespeople combined in this company, including my sales, was $30 million, but I was responsible for $16 million of it. The other salesmen were responsible for their $2 million territory that paid them $100,000 a year, because they didn't do what the 1% are willing to do. And the same thing when we started network marketing and I got busy with this, I wanted to do the things that other people would not do. And that means working in depth. Whether you have a team of 5 people or 50 people or 500 people, working in depth is so important to get to know so many different people and what makes them tick. And what most people do in network marketing is they only work with that person they put in the business. Right. I didn't put Rick Gutman in the business. Frank Sochnik did. I put Frank Sochnik in the business. And guess what? I'm working with Rick. I don't even know if Frank knows we're here. He probably does now that he's watching. But then we go in depth even below that. And Frank is a master of doing that in your group. He gets in depth because that's what the 1% will do when they're building a team, is do the things that no one else will do. And there's so many other things that we can do. I'll let Rick talk on some of those. Today has been awesome. We've just been sitting around pounding in our heads motivational speeches, and I'm like, man, do you do this every day? And he's like, oh yeah, this is my routine. I get up, I read, I work out, I eat, and then I fill myself with positive motivational stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to up my game.
Well, I think, look, you can't be the 1% and remain average, right? It's like nobody, that is self-made makes $1 million a year and remains average. So you have to have that desperation to have a better life, right? And we think about imagination, right? And vision, what it takes to be there. Your vision and your imagination, right? I like to talk about, everyone talks about vision, but I want to add another layer to that, because if you lack imagination, then you're going to lack vision, right? And so, if your vision is to become the 1% or become Black Diamond or whatever it is, higher than that, or Diamond, whatever that is, then you have to not just say, I'm going to be Diamond or I'm going to be Black Diamond. You have to imagine everything it's going, that the quality of life, right? How many people you're going to help, and how many people you're going to teach, and the type of house you want to live in, the type of lifestyle and what you want that lifestyle to look like, how you want to travel, how much seed you have to sow in terms of building friendships and relationships. Like you have to go through that, have that vision, but your imagination is really the foundation of having vision. I don't know if there's any person that's ever built a big business, a massive business, that didn't have imagination, right? So your imagination and your vision has to be bigger than everything that's holding you back, like your fear, right? So if you see that wall of fear and you're intimidated to talk to this person or to step out into this industry and tell people this is what you're doing and why you're doing it, your imagination has to literally, and your vision has to be so much larger than that fear that's standing in your way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So focus and imagination is one. Loving people, right? Loving what you do, loving the process. Let's talk about understanding the process, right? And not fighting the development. That's a big, big part of it.
Well, that process starts to me with what you were talking about, the vision. When I was reading Elon Musk's book today, talked right off the bat. He had a vision of where he was going, and that vision was so strong that it helped him fight the battles that are going to happen and the failures along the way that are going to happen. And I look at all the leaders, the true leaders in the world, and you can go back to the Bible. You look at Moses, and he's this guy that has a vision that God had inspired him with of what he was going to do with the Israelites, same thing. And he said, we got this promised land we're going to go to, with flowing of milk and honey and grapes the size of humans' heads. And he went to these people that had been slaves for hundreds of years, and he cast a vision where they were going, and they believed it, and they walked, and they went out there, but troubles hit them along the way, and they lost their vision. And what happened? They wandered in that desert for 40 years, and then they got their vision back. It took a purging. They had to do away with all the people that didn't have a vision, but then the vision came back, and they were able to cross over into that promised land because of a vision that God gave them. So when I look at this business and I'm sitting down to talk with someone and they can't even tell me their vision, like a father needs to have a vision for his family, that he's going to lead them spiritually, financially, emotionally. And he's going to be able to cast that vision for his family. For me personally, being able to tell my kids you can go to any college you want as long as you can make the grades and get accepted. I cast a vision for them early on that they needed to make good grades, that they needed to be responsible, that they needed to do the things that most kids aren't going to do so they could go anywhere they want. Now let's talk about this business. What is your vision? Moms, is your vision, as you're building this, to be able to maybe bring your dad, the husband, home where he doesn't have to work all those hours? I'm not talking retirement. Let's be real for here. What if you could just make enough money, an extra $1,000 a month? That substantially changed most lives in America. What if that was your vision right now? Your vision can always change. Just like Holly's vision, Rick, when she first got in, was pedicure and manicure money. 14 years ago, that was her vision, and all of a sudden that happened, and her vision changed to be able to shop till she dropped, and all of a sudden, oh my God, what if we could knock retirement from Corbin from 65 to 55? Oh my gosh, what if you could be that stay-at-home dad? The vision changed, but she had a vision every step of the way, so she would be able to do the things that most people would not do. And that's part of the process that you talk about, the process. Being able to wake up every single day without fail and picking up the phone or doing something to recruit for your business. There's 2 R's in this business that are the most important: recruit and retention. Those 2 R's will make you millions of dollars, and you've got to become an expert at both of them. Now, recruiting, some people think, I got to go put in hundreds of people to have success. No, part of becoming a prolific recruiter is identifying the proper people to go recruit. Rick has not sponsored hundreds upon hundreds of people. He sponsored a few that are bringing in the many and teaching them to do the same thing, because he has a process on how he goes out and recruits and what he's looking for to be able to pour into. So as you're getting started, some people want to go in their process to recruit. They don't want to talk to their family. They don't want to talk to their friends. They don't want to talk to people that have. That's not a process to me. If you love somebody and you care for them, why wouldn't you introduce them to an opportunity that can knock their socks off physically, financially, spiritually, mentally, so many different ways? But because you're embarrassed or you're not you don't have a strong enough vision to talk to them. You want to go after the people you're running into at the mall, or your waiter or a waitress or someone on an airplane. That's fine. But man, my process was I'm lining this thing out. I'm building a list of every single person I possibly know that has influence with people. Because here's the deal. You might not know a whole lot of people, and you might not have a lot of influence with people, but you know somebody that does. And here's the beauty of this. You reach out to the plugged-in upline that knows what they're doing. If you don't have influence, and you put them on the phone with that person that does have the influence and let them work their magic, and wow, the system just worked for you, part of the process. And now all of a sudden you've got people in your business. To think in the last business that I was in, there was a trash man that went on to make millions of dollars. Well, he didn't have a lot of influence with people, but he knew people that did, and that's who he plugged into the business. So that's part of the process.
Yeah. I was writing down here that, and this is the part I think I love about the process more and than anything else, is the 1% discover who they are during the pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Failures, pain,
right?
Struggles.
And that's the one thing that we have to unplug from the blueprint of the way we've been raised, is that failure is like a mortal sin. And failure in business is just solving problems, right? Just problem solving. And the 1% look at problem solving like weightlifting, like working out, right?
Yeah.
The question that we all have to ask ourselves is, how do we deal with failures? How do we deal with problem solving? When you come to a place, when you come to a place where you have a good relationship, there it is right there. You build a good relationship with problem solving, then you're starting to take on the characteristic of the 1%, because you cannot be the 1% and not become passionate about solving problems. So most people, especially if you've been in an employee most of your life, is problems, they want to avoid them at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
But in
problems
business, right?
Keep you there longer.
Yeah. So when we look at Mark Zuckerberg and the Warren Buffetts and all these greats, that have been out there, the Kiyosaki's and of course the Elon Musks, they show up to work every day to solve problems, right? And in the network marketing space and what we do in Viseo, we're working with people. We're helping people part of the problem is to get them out of that blueprint of the way they've been raised, right? That, that money doesn't grow on trees, and they don't know much about passive income. They don't know education, or they feel like, they're never going to be blessed. They're never going to be prosperous. They're never going to be a success. Their friends are never going to listen to them. They're all these never, never, nevers. And part of the problem solving is helping people to start having that imagination and that vision for their life, and starting to imagine themselves to start to believe that they can have success, right? And so the 1% discover themselves in the pain, in the valley, right? So our whole life, in our whether it's in life or it's in any industry, but namely in Viseo, we have our peaks and we have our valleys. And so I would add that the 1% discover who they are in the valleys, not in the peaks, but in the valleys, right? Because that's when it starts pulling the fighter out of you, and you start realizing, no, I'm not going to let life and doubt and discouragement steal my stuff, steal my territory, steal what God has for me, right? So the 1% discover who they are in the pain. Want to add to that?
Yeah, I do. As you were talking about that, one thing the 1% is really good at is being able to handle critique from people that share or have their vision. So many times, one thing that has been hard on me is I've asked Dallin Larson, he's my mentor, he's the guy I look to, and I've asked a few other people, speak into my life and tell me things I need to improve on. And at first that was hard, and I would argue back and say, well, no, you don't know. No.
Yeah.
Now I take it, whether I totally agree with it or not. But the way I look at it is being one of the 1% and want to increase my 1% to be even sharper and tighter is if someone feels that way about me, and that's how the perception is, that is their truth. So I need to work on things that are maybe not, that I don't totally agree with and that I'm uncomfortable with. So ask yourself that. If you went to your spouse tonight and said, honey, I love you more than anything, tell me what I need to work on, would it cause an argument? Or would you be able to accept what they shared with you? Maybe not your spouse, maybe a loved one. Ask your kids, what do I need to improve on as a father, as a mother, as a spouse, as a brother, as a sister? And be willing to accept that critique. Because I can promise you this, the guys that are killing it in the world, like we've said, all the names, Elon Musk, and on, all those guys can handle critique, but they don't handle it from the wrong people. They got to handle it. They accept it from the people that have that same vision. So I want Rick to speak into my life. He's asked me numerous times, Corbin, you have full autonomy to reach out to me and tell me things that you think I need to work on and improve on. And that's one of the things that are hard to be able to accept.
Yeah, being coachable is a big deal, right? There's a lot of us that think that we're coachable, but then when the coach shows up, like you just said, you fight for your position, right? You fight for, what your thoughts were and why. You start explaining why you're doing it. That's not really being coachable. Being coachable is going, okay, I'm going to find out how I can work on that. Instead of saying, well, I've already done that, or I already got that, or coming up with explanations.
Or you don't know the backstory.
Yeah. Reasons why you should think like that. The best way is to go, okay, how can I do exactly what he's saying? What goals should I put into action that could help me to change in that area, so I can build stronger relationships, or I can build influence, or I can build stronger systems, or duplication, or routine, and all that. And which brings us to another thing. I mean, the 1% have a routine. Right?
Yeah, I heard years ago, daily disciplines done daily build character. I changed it. Daily disciplines done daily build wealth. Wealth. If you're doing the right daily disciplines. Getting up and eating donuts and sleeping until 9:30, 10 o'clock and not picking up the phone and calling people, those aren't the right daily disciplines. But here's the beauty of a daily discipline. It's like working out. You go to the gym, you're not in the gym all day long, continuously working out and doing, man, you'd burn out and you would be done. But you can get up 5-6 days a week and get yourself physically fit and get yourself right and get yourself healthy for 45 minutes to an hour a day. So why can't you take the daily disciplines in your business like the 1%ers do, in your networking business, in your Viseo business? Why can't you have a daily discipline where every single day you're talking to 2 to 3 new people? You're building your list every single day. Why can't you have a daily discipline that you're going to reach out to people in your organization every single day and see how they're doing? Just see how life is. See if there's anything you can do for them. Can you pray with them? Do you need help with 3-way calls? Can I do a Zoom for you? There's so many daily disciplines. And here's the beauty of a daily discipline. Once you've done the income producing activities in your business, you're done. It's just like working out. Man, I did my workout. I feel good. I feel great. Same thing in this business. So many people want to sit around all day long and stress about it and worry about it. You don't want to do that.
And let's go a little bit deeper too, because for me, I am a textbook introvert. And being a textbook introvert, I didn't like to engage with large groups of people. And I also had a great fear of failing, but I wanted time. I didn't want somebody to tell me what to do in life. And so I had a problem. How do I become a boss and remain an introvert at the same time, right? The two don't go hand in hand. So for me, my routine starts a little deeper than that, because when I get up in the morning, I have my coffee. I sit out on my balcony and I begin to read. Normally, I'll read some scripture first because that gives me my peace. After that, I read, Elon Musk is the top of my list right now. I've got 3 of his books right now, and I'm learning everything I possibly can about his life because I want to think like Elon. Because I know that I don't, right? And so I want to draft off of what makes him tick, and how is his imagination so great that, he's talking about, people are talking about going to the moon. He's talking about living on Mars.
Colonizing Mars with 80,000 people by 2040. That's nuts.
Right? So, I mean, he's made a habit of solving problems that everyone else says you cannot do. You cannot colonize Mars, and he's saying, oh yeah, not only am I going to do it, I have $100 million that I've thrown at it because I'm betting on myself. And so when I read stuff like that, it pulls on me, and it encourages me, and it inspires me to go make those calls that I normally don't want to make.
Yeah.
Right? And then, Corbin saw, I have my TV on and I have my YouTube, and every week I have a different person that's speaking in my life all day long. It's just on.
And it's not on soft note. It's loud.
It's loud.
You can hear it all over the house.
It's all over the house. And every day is like that for me. So, I'm a big fan of Eric Thomas. And he's the #1 inspirational speaker in the world. And he's one of those guys that gets paid at the door. It's not my style to have a business to get paid at the door, because I like pouring into people and teaching and helping and working with them and being in the trenches with them. But my point is, I'm constantly listening. It's going on in my house all day long. This motivation and 1% and becoming bigger than you are and becoming bigger than your problems and bigger than your debt and all of that stuff. I'm constantly programming myself, and even reprogramming myself throughout the day. So at right about 2 hours into that, I no longer want to not do anything. I no longer remain the introvert. I change. It changes me, and it takes me from being an introvert literally into an extrovert. And that extrovert is where the power is at, right? So if you're like me and you're an introvert, or you're real uncomfortable making phone calls, and you're uncomfortable doing a lot of the things that are uncomfortable for you, right? Pushing yourself out of the nest, so to speak, then that is a mechanic. Those are the mechanics of what I need to do. I was telling him this morning, I absolutely need to do that every day, or I will not get the job done. So I wasn't born with the burning desire to conquer the day every day. For me, as an introvert, I needed to solve problems, and the first problems I needed to solve is, how can I go from a place where I feel defeated into a place of where I want to conquer.
Yeah.
Routine.
Imagine as we're talking about these routines and the daily discipline, imagine if every Monday you sat down and had goals for the week that you were gonna hit. That I'm gonna talk to 8 new people this week. I'm gonna reach out to people in my group every single day. I'm gonna show the plan 2 to 3 times this week. I'm gonna attend the trainings that my upline has online every week. And you check those off as you're going through, and then it just becomes part of your routine. Imagine where your business is going to be like. And here's what I know. People are wanting to be led. It goes to that visionary. Great visionary. He's like the Pied Piper. People will want to follow him. They want to know where they're going. And people flock to a Dallin Larson. So here's what I've always taught. Man, that guy casts a great vision for where this company's going. I need to align in that vision. And now I need to do the things every day to make that vision happen. And that's wherever your business is, whether you're just getting started today or you've been in for 6 months and nothing's happened for you, I can promise you this. Activity, and one of the videos he had on earlier today, he was talking about that it is impossible to be depressed while you're working out. You're building your muscles. What's called the endorphins are picking up and all of that, and it allows you. You cannot become depressed. Well, the brain is a muscle, so work the brain every day with your routine and your disciplines. And guess what? All that you can't do it. All that negative can't operate in positive. The dark cannot operate in the light. And so you need to be able to have those things, those daily disciplines, the reading of the book, the inspiration. Those are great, but you also have to have the activity that goes along with it. You know, it's like the guy that sits around all day long and listens to positive mental things, but he never goes out and implements them. All he's doing is listening. He's not hearing. And there's a big difference. And you got to get out there, guys, and take these things that you're hearing, take these things that we're talking about today, and go plug them into your business and watch what can happen. Watch how you just start changing your thought process. A lot of you know I went through some heart issues, and it was crazy to me how sitting at home and not feeling well, all of a sudden I didn't want to do anything. I started letting that, almost a depression, start taking over. But then when I got this clean bill of health, all of a sudden I'm back doing the things, from working out to my Bible study to picking up the phone and calling people, and an excitement. And that vision came crystal clear because the dark can't operate in the light. And now I had a light on where I was going. And that can change your perspective in this business. But what I wanted everyone to understand, though, is as we were going over these ages and these figures to be able to hit the 1%, the 1% put in the work to get there. Rick Gutman has put in the work, and it didn't just happen overnight. And some people get into network marketing and they compare themselves to somebody else. They see that a Holly Roush in 6 months' time went from never having done this to massive success, and they're like, well, why is it that I'm doing everything that she's doing? Why don't I have that same success? It's a trap to fall into that because you don't know the process that person has gone through in life that gets them to be able to have that kind of success. And that goes back to personal development is so important to growing your business. And why some people want to quit after 4 no's. I hear this all the time. I've gone through my list. I've talked to 4 or 5 people and they don't want to do it and they're not doing it. I can't find anybody else. Wrong mentality. You have thousands of people out there, and it's just your mindset and developing the skills. Man, if someone tells me no but tells Rick yes, here's what I know. His process is better than mine. He's asking the better questions. He's listening. He's dripping on them better. He's being the leader that I need to be. Maybe I'm just going out and saying, hey, I found this company. It's network marketing. I know I don't feel like them either, but hey, it's a way for us to make money. I don't know anything about the products. And they tell me no. But Rick goes out with an excitement. Man, I found something I'm so excited about. It's in health and wellness. You know I love health and wellness. It's a way for us to make money. I'd love to sit down with you and share this. Do you have some time? Well, yes, I do have time. It's the process. He didn't just all of a sudden that flow out of his mouth and he starts talking that way. It was a process. It took time and time. It's like working out, man. You watch a guy that can bench press 275. Very few people sit down and can bench press 275. They start out at 110 and 40, and then they keep doing it, and finally they get there. They develop the processes along the way to get them where they want to go. And that's what I want you to understand on the 1%. Some people say, oh, I'll never get there. You're right, you won't. You're done. Check, please. But the people that say, I want to be the 1%, and I'm going to do what the 1% are willing to do. I'm going to do it without fail. I'm not going to put a timeline on my success. Why would you ever put a timeline on your success? Why? That's silly. If it takes you 10 years to make $1 million, would it be worth it? If it takes you 20 years to make $1 million, would it be worth it? The difference between failure and success is the person that said, I quit. I quit. I'm done. Don't be that person.
You know, we'll summarize what he just said here too. And one is, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 24.
That's good,
right? And the other thing to remember is that, look, there are those that build a network long before they need a network, and then there are those that don't build a network until they need a network, and that might be you. And so, just like you were saying, you're going to get there, but you can't put your eyes on somebody who's been preparing themselves and their network longer than you have. You're going to get there, right? One of the biggest issues of one of the biggest hurdles of discouragement is when you have your eyes on somebody that's moving through the ranks faster than you can, but you don't understand that they've been building influence in their network and they've been preparing themselves long before they got here, right? The great part is you're going to get there too. And this is something that, you know, because of being an introvert and because of having to really hunt down and kill everything I ate in life, right? I need to break things down in my mind. And what I found that is that as I studied and asked how can I become the 1%, I realized that education in that area caused me to have a deeper well of belief. And that as my deeper well of belief got stronger, it prompted me to go out and take action. And then as I began to take more action, it became routine. And then as that education became belief, became action, became routine, all of a sudden I had a wealth building machine.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, if any of you guys are like me in that area, because things don't compute to me like they compute to somebody else, I have to break them down in my mind in bite-sized increments so I can process it. And so if you're there and you're like in that chapter 1 or chapter 2, or you're moving slow, just remind yourself, what do I need right now? I need some education in how to do this, right? And as you become educated, it's gonna cause a belief, and as you have that belief, you want to start talking to people.
You get excited about it.
Yeah. So that starts. It almost like pulls you by your shirt and pulls you out of bed, because the belief is causing you to go, man, I'm starting to change the way I talk. You're like, what am I talking about? What are you talking about when you're sitting with family now? As when you have education. Right? When you have an education in what you're doing, you're not talking about the other things that you used to talk about. Your language is changing, and when you change your language, you change your life.
You change your sphere of influence.
Everything changes, right?
See, you can tell how good we are together. We sat down last night, and I'm so ADD. I had 8 conversations going at once, and I was watching his head just spin around. He kept reeling me back in. I just talked about 3 subjects at once, didn't realize I did it. And then he summarized perfect for me. So thank you for that. We balance each.
That's right.
He completes me. So we better wrap it up. I know that there's other stuff going on tonight, but man, Rick, I want to personally thank you for having me to your house.
No, man, it's been great.
Getting to spend a couple days here in the mountains of Bend, Oregon. Yeah. What a beautiful, guys, man, what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. If I were all of you and you're on Rick's team, I'd reach out to him and say, what goal? Set me a goal to be able to come to your house and spend a couple days just in the mind of a genius, because that's what this guy is. He's one of those guys that's a true blessing to have in Viseo and in the group, and he's pouring into people. Guys, he's relentless with his mind and his studies and trying to become a better person. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out here, bro. Before we close, I want to say, I remember Holly and Corbin in another company, a former company, when I was just new in the industry, and they worked so well together, and their stories were so relatable. Holly's story was so relatable to the women. Your story was so relatable to the men, and then together their story was so relatable to the couples and the dynamics of what they go through when one steps into the network marketing space before the other one really sees the value in it.
The power.
And so, my only regret was that I didn't get to, spend a lot of time with him, back in our former company. But, as soon as he became the master distributor here, I was like, you know what, this is my chance where I'm going to build a strong relationship with both.
Yeah, and that's what everyone needs to know. We're equally yoked. He's overcome nation, but he is Viseo. He 100%. He is 100% on board. This is, we talked about it earlier. We're building seriously a legacy company that's on the perfect growth trajectory. We're not in a hurry. People are like, well, the last company went to $1 billion in 3 years. We don't want it to go to $1 billion in 3 years, because your company can only grow based on the leadership that's there, and it can only sustain that growth based on the leadership that's there. So I love how Rick is pouring in and developing leaders inside his group. And again, we're all Viseo. We're all so united and excited.
That's really good, bro. We can't end on this. We got. There's something else I think is really valuable. What he said is, like, we don't want it to become $1 billion company in 3 years. And we hear all the minds that are tweaking right now, because they're like, heck yeah, I want to be able to tell everybody we did $1 billion in 3 years. But what I want you to understand is, if you want to build a business that really lasts, if you go too fast, it becomes like a fireworks show. Mm-hmm. And then you get all the types of people that you really, trust me when I tell you, you don't want them in your business, because they're not here to help guide and steer the ship. Mm-hmm. They're not here to contribute to building the engine. They're here to take.
They're grasshoppers. Remember from the movie Bugs Life? They come, they eat, they leave. They come, they eat, they leave. We don't want grasshoppers.
Yeah.
We want people that are building this with us.
I think that, we build those routines in our life, but also we're building a routine together in Viseo in helping to pioneer and steer this ship and building our own routines within it. So, what happens is now you feel like, look, I'm not here to just for the spoils. I'm here to build. Yeah. I'm here to plant. I'm here to pull and strain and teach. I'm here in the dark times. I'm in here in the celebration, and that's how you build a legacy company, because now everybody has that inward might, right? Because they've been tested. You really don't know whether you love somebody or not until that love is tested.
Hey,
right?
a great analogy of what you're talking about. I remember when the World Trade Centers were knocked down, and people were like, when are they going to build them? When are they going to build them? When are they building them? They were down underground for, I believe, 5 years, building the foundation of the now tower that is the Peace Tower. It's gigantic now, but people wondered, where is it? But now it's shut up, and it is so strong, and it cannot be taken down because the proper foundation was poured. And that's what we're doing with this company. We're pouring the proper foundation so we can have a legacy company that cannot be brought down. And man, I can tell you this: we have some of the most amazing people, from people that have built before to people that have never, ever built before. Their hearts are right. And to quote, and I'll let you wrap it up, my good friend Rusty Barton, who says, you have the chance right now in Viseo to stick your hands in wet cement and be a part of that foundation where they're going to be talking about you for years and years and years. It's like buying that first house when you got married and they poured that driveway and you and your wife went out there and put your hands in it, maybe your kids' feet prints, and wrote your names in it. That's what you have the ability to do right now with this company, is be able to etch your hands in wet concrete.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that most people don't want to do, because it's the hard stuff, right? When you talk about that foundation of like the World Trade Center, and they were below ground for like 5 years, like that's the ugly stuff. That's the rebar. That's the mortar. That's all the stuff that's not attractive, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're doing right now in building Viseo is we're doing all the stuff that is not attractive because it's blood, sweat, tears, right? It's making our message congruent. It's figuring out how to win. It's how to discover yourself in the process, falling in love with the process, and you don't protect what you don't fight for, right? If you've never had to fight for something,
we're giving birth,
right? Then you're not going to fight to protect it, right? Yeah. So when you have to when you're part of the pain and the struggle, you're not so quick to go, you know what? I wonder what's over in that camp, right? I know that like for years. As a young adult, I was a tile contractor and a general contractor. And even now, when I go to California and I drive by certain places, I go, yeah, I built that over there. I built that. I did all the granite and the tile over there. I remember, right? Think about it where we're at here. Like, you have the opportunity to go, you know what? I helped build $1 billion company.
Amen.
I'm a part of that legacy company. Like, I was a huge part of the foundation of what we have today, and your contribution, right? Collectively, we all have the satisfaction of knowing that we were a part of all the brick and mortar, But 1, 2, 3, a handful of you could be the 5 or 10 people that actually are the ones that make this company great. But you haven't discovered really who you are yet, and that's what I think is the most beautiful. Is because you begin to draw out all of that amazing treasure and strength that you have when you're building in the difficult times, right? Yeah. To have the satisfaction, that character, and nobody can take that away from you once it's established.
Yep. Well, guys, thanks for getting on. Love you. Appreciate
Love you guys.
Hey, be looking at the calendar, the Viseo calendar. Lots and lots of meetings coming up. I know Dallon's doing a 4-day run. Holly and I are going to be with him. I got Canada. We go, hey, build local, think global. Start finding out who do you know in Asia, who do you know over there, who in your neighborhoods from one of these markets, and let's go build a global business. We're out of here.
Love you guys.